saw in the Mishnah that if people had a shutfis, the shaila was, were they able to use that shutfis they had in a business transaction deal? Were they able to go ahead and combine that in the shitufim avois? So the Tanakama said, if it was yayin b'yayin, if the shutfis was in yayin, then they could, because the shitufim avois can make out a yayin. However, it was in yayin and shemen, then you couldn't. If yayin and shemen, you cannot. Says Rav Shimon, you could even make it in yayin b'shemen. We had a third opinion. A pashtus Rabbi Elazar ben Tadoi, you couldn't even make it in yayin b'yayin. So we have to explain the three shitas. So the shita of l'chora, the Tanakama, makes sense. In other words, if your shutfis is in yayin, you own wine together. Therefore, what? Since wine could be used as shutfis, it's considered a taruvis, and therefore you could use it for the shita of mavois. According to Rabbi, but however, yayin and shemen, which don't mix together, so it doesn't work. So the question was, like Rabbi Shimon, that it does work. How does it work? Oil and yayin mixed together don't mix together. So we said two chidushim. We said one pshat. We're not speaking about one sheet of mavois. We're speaking about two separate ones. There's a chatzar in the middle. There's two mavois, and there's chatzeros. He's a partner in one chatzeros with wine. He's a partner in the other chatzeros with shemen. Therefore, it would work. They never mix together. You're speaking about two separate shitufei mavois. That was one teretz. A second teretz, we said it was totally in the machlokes between the Tanakama and Rabbi Yochanan ben Uroi regarding a tful yoim. A tful yoim is a sheni l'tama. If he touches truma, he makes it a shlishi. We have truma oil floating on top of truma wine. Like the Tanakama, if you touch the oil, the wine is still tahar. So we see it's two separate entities. Like Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, if you touch the oil, the yayin, the wine is also tameh. You see they are mechuber. So we're speaking about now, according to this teretz, one sheet of mavois, and the Tanakama holds like the Rabbanon, that they're considered separate entities, linyan tuma. They're considered separate entities, linyan erev. Says Rabbi Yochanan, says the teretz of Rabbi Yosef is that we, just like Rabbi Yochanan and Nuri view them as michuburim, as one connection linyan tuma, who Adini views them as one connection linyan erev. Okay, that was the sheetus of Rav Shimon. We saw Rabbi Elazar ben Tadoi said, Echad zeh ve'echad zeh, you can't make an erev. So yes, what do you mean? Yayin b'yayin not? He argues totally on the Mishnah. So we said, no, we wanted to qualify that. If you go ahead and take a ladle full of wine and put it in a pitcher, and a ladle full of wine and put it in the pitcher, you will be what? You will be a shutfis. That would work in shutfis and in shitum of voice. The shaila is over here. You purchase together a barrel of wine for $100. Rabbi Elazar ben Tadai holds you have to have boirer wine. You have to have clear wine. Over here, you don't have clear wine. It's not. This is not the classic breira we spoke out of Taisus. This is just lashon mur. In order for it to be a sheet of voice, it has to be clear. Your materialistic object, your wine. It's not clear over here. You own the money. You own wine, but it's not clear which is yours. Like a Rabbi Elazar ben Tadai. And like the Tanakama, but you own it. It's fine. It's okay. We're now coming to give another teretz according to Rabbi Elazar ben Tadai. When he says echad zeh, you can't do. We're coming to explain. We're holding on ayin aleph on the base. We're a little bit behind. Let's be magdim something. We're familiar with Erev Chatzeros. It's where the bias makes you ma'arv the chatzah together to allow it to carry from the bias into the chatzah. We're also familiar with one chatzah making an erev to another chatzah. Chatzeros that are side by side with a in the middle they have a chalon, they have a window, they have a door. They can make a chatzah with each. They make an erev. They take an erev and they put it in the other one. And now we've combined the chatzeros. Good. So there's the bias to the chatzar, and then there's making the chatzeros into. It's also considered an erev chatzeros. I'm just expanding it out of my chatzar. I'm going now from chatzar A to chatzar B. Now chatzar A and chatzar B are one big chatzar. If I make a sheet of muvois now that these chatzeros should be able to carry, does that sheet of work to combine the chatzeros or not? In other words, think about it. What's a sheet of muvois? You have two separate chatzeros. They're going into a mavoi. to carry into that mavoy, I need to make a sheet of mavois. Does the sheet of mavois preclude making an eruv between the two chatzeros? Or no, they would have to make an eruv chatzeros between themselves. That's the machloikis between Rabbi Elazar ben Tudai and the Chachamim. So, meaning, when it says in the Lashon of the Mishnah, but in Lashon of the Brisa, Rabbi Elazar ben Tudai yom echad zeh v'echad zeh tzrichen la'arev. Guys, look at on page Ayin Aleph Amid Beis. Count down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lines down. Rabbi Elazar ben Tudai yomer echad zeh, whether you go ahead and use wine, doesn't make a difference. V'echad zeh, or whether you use oil, doesn't make a difference. Tzrichen la'arev. In other words, if whatever I use to make my sheet of mavois, I'm not discussing wine, I'm not discussing shemen. Whatever you use to make the sheet of, it doesn't help to go ahead and make an eruv chatzeros. Tzrichim la'arev, you're going to have to go ahead and make an eruv between the chatzeros because the sheet of mavois does not do the job. That's an original pshat. It's a totally original pshat in the machlokes. Until now, we've been learning the machlokes is whether you could use wine or you could use shemen. With this pshat is not saying that at all. This pshat is saying no matter what you use to make a sheet of mavois, again, you're making a good sheet of mavois. But no matter what you use, you're still going to have to make an eruv chatzeros because the sheet of mavois cannot preclude the need for an eruv chatzeros. That's the next pshat, and that's the way you read it in the words. So let's see it inside the Gemara. Rabbi Yosef Omer, we're about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 lines down. Rabbi Yosef is going to say a different pshat in the machlokas. We heard the first pshat was we said breirod, you say you need clear. Rabbi says you need clear wine here and clear wine there. Now we have an original pshat. Rabbi Yosef Omer, Rabbi Elazar ben Tudai v'Rabbanon b'soimchen. They're arguing b'soimchen al shituf b'makom eruv kanifkali. Can I go ahead and use my shituf to go ahead and not make an eruv chatzeros? That's the shaila. Can you do that or not? The Masavar, Rabbi Elazar ben Tudai holds ein soimchen. You cannot. Umasava and the Rabbanan hold soimchen. You can. So again, one more time, 7 lines from the top. Rabbi Elazar ben Tudai omer echad zeh v'echad zeh. Whatever you use, whether you're using wine or whether you're using shemen, and you make a good sheet of mavois. Nonetheless, tzrichim la'arev. After you make the sheet to mavois, you're still going to have to make an eruv chatzeros. It's totally different pshat, guys, right? Totally different. The first pshat was whether it's an eruv chatzeros, whether it's a sheet of mavois at all. In other words, according to the first pshat, whether I use wine or whether I use wine and shemen, it's no good. Because why? Because it ain't breira. According to this, no, of course it's a good sheet of mavois. But the focus is on the next words. Tzrichim la'arev, right? You're going to have to go ahead and make an eruv chatzeros. Why? Because the sheet of mavois does not help for the eruv chatzeros. Guys, it comes out like this. Look at, I'm going to be very high in the Lashon. The Gemara often calls eruv chatzeros a sheet of mavois. So I'm going to read both pshatim in the lines. Tell me, listen to this difference. It's amazing. Listen to this. 7 lines down. Rabbi Elazar ben Tudai omer echad zeh, whether you put wine and wine together, echad zeh, whether you put wine and oil together, tzrichim la'arev, you're going to have to make a sheet of mavois. It's not going to be good. In other words, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. You're going to have to the partnership that you have does not make. And the word eruv here means what? The word eruv here means shitufei mavois. You don't have anything to start with. You hear? It doesn't mean eruv. It means if I have an existing partnership with somebody, be it in wine or be it in shemen, tzrichim la'arev, I'm going to have to make a new shitufei mavois. Now let's look at Yosef's pshat, guys. Echad zeh ve'echad zeh. Whether you have an eruv from shemen or you have an eruv from wine, that eruv, that sheet of mavois which is there, Srichim la'arev, you're going to have to make an Erev Chatzeros. I'm going to have to, and that word Erev Chatzeros is not a sheet of voice. It means Erev Chatzeros. So it's two different ways to learn even the word Erev Chatzeros, the two distinct pshatim. Okay, very, very geshmakim pshat. Okay, now the Gemara gets a little more difficult. We're sheet of voice, Erev Chatzeros. An Erev Chatzeros has to be done with pas. It has to be done with bread. A sheet of voice can even be done with wine. Good. Erev Chatzeros has to be done with pas. Sheet of muvos can be done with wine. What happens if I make a sheet of muvos out of pas? It possibly could help for what? For my sheet for my erev. In other words, it is the material that I would have to use for erev. But if you hold that you can't use a sheet for an erev, even if I use pas, it won't work. That's a tremendous chumrah, and that's the chumrah of Rav Meir. Says Rav Meir, no matter what material you use, wine, even bread, you can't go ahead and count the sheet of mavois towards the erev chatzeris. It doesn't work. Rebbe Elazar ben Tudai simply says, right, if you use wine, you can't. He doesn't say what the din will be if you use pas. Let's begin. The Masava, so now, again, Rabbi Yosef's teretz is that Rebbe Elazar ben Tudai is the Rabbanon arguing whether you can use your sheet for an erev. Masava, Rebbe Elazar ben Tudai holds ain't Saimchin, Masava Saimchin. Rabbi Yosef, I mean Allah. How do I know this? How do I know this? The Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Rav Yehuda says in the name of Rav, Halacha k'Reb Meir. Rabbi Yehuda says in the name of Rav, the halacha is like Reb Meir. That means the ein soimchin, that you can't make a sheet of. Okay. For Amar Rav Bruna Amar Rav, halacha k'Reb Elazar ben Tudai. He says the halacha is like ben Tudai. Lav mishum dechad taimahu. It must be. It's one reason. What's the reason you can't be soimech? What's the reason you can't be soimech? Because you can't use wine. Says the Gemara, why was it necessary to say the halacha is like Rav Meir and the halacha is like Rabbi Elazar ben Tudai? Says the Gemara, we don't go like two chumas. Rabbi Meir holds two chumas, guys. One, he holds that a sheet of muvois does not alleviate the need for erev chatzeros, and two, he says even if you use pas. So if I would have said that halacha is like Reb Meir, I would have had two chumas. One, sheetuf doesn't help. Two, even if the sheetuf with bread doesn't help, that's chumas. We are makel by Eruvin throughout the Masechta. By now, you all know we are makel, right? We saw Gemara's, should you do schiris and it doesn't work? So we said, yeah, do the schiris and you'll ask questions later. Safed Rabban lahakol, and we're makel like anything here by Eruv. So we're hearing from Rav a tremendous chiddush. We're hearing from Rav, I had to say the halacha is like Rebbe Elazar ben Tudai first, and then I could say the halacha is like Reb Meir. Why? Rebbe Elazar ben Tudai just says, I can't use yayin. He doesn't tell us about pas. Maybe by pas it would work. Then I could tell me the halacha is like Reb Meir, that it doesn't work even by pas. Because if I would have told me halacha is like Reb Meir, I would have had two churmis. One, you can't do it, and two, you can't even do it with pas. By saying the halacha is like Rebbe Elazar ben Tudai, I only hear yayin. Then I say the halacha is like Reb Meir. The reason he's telling us those two things is to tell us goof for this chiddush that what you can't have two churmis. Now we have the Gemara. Everything's good. I spoke a lot. Let's just go over this two nekudos, and then we can go straight to the finish line. We have machlokes between the Tanakama, Reb Shimon, and Reb Eliezer ben Tudai. Like the Tanakama, yayin works. If you have a shutfis in yayin, you can make a sheet of mavois. But if you have the shutfises and two things in Shem and V'yayin, it doesn't work. Rabbi Shimon says even Shem and V'yayin works. And Rabbi Shimon, we have two pshatim, either two mavois, or it's speaking like Rabbi Yochanan Nuri, that's considered mechubar. And now we have a third shita that nothing works. Says the Gemara, what do you mean nothing works? If you mix the wine together, it would work. When does he say wine and wine doesn't work? We have ownership of the wine, and it's not boirer, it's not clear where my wine is. That's one pshat. Now we're saying that's Rabbi's pshat. We're saying a second pshat, Rabbi Yosef. What doesn't work? It doesn't work. Your shituf, that's a shituf, doesn't work. What for a mav, for an erev? It doesn't work for an erev. That's it. It doesn't work for an erev. Even if you use pas, it doesn't work for an erev. That's the Kiddush Light Rebbe Meir. Now we're going to meet Rebbe Meir and the Chachamim. This that we just said about, you got all the information. Now it's a straight shot to the Mishnah. Says the Gemara. My Rebbe Meir, right? The two chumras. You don't say one that you can't make an erev through a shutif, and two you can't use pas. My Rebbe Meir, my Rabbanan, who are these? The Tanya. Ma'arvin b'chatzeres b'pas. You could, in fact, go ahead, make a classic Erev Chazeres Pas. That's what you do. An Erev Chazeres, you take your pas, people live with their bread, my bread's in this guy's house, I'm living there, we're all good. And if you want to go ahead and make an Erev Biyayin, Eim Arvin. You can't make an Erev Chazeres Biyayin. In other words, go to a guy's house, take a fancy bottle of wine, put it in the house over there and say, this is the Erev. No, you have to take a box of matzah, put it in the house and say, that's my Erev. However, even though I can't make an Erev Chatzeres with wine, I could make a sheet of mavois with wine. And if you want to make your sheet of bepas, you can. How now? If you make an Erev Chatzeres, you have to make mishtafin b'mavoi. Why? If you would go ahead, fellas, take bread, put it in the sheet of mavois, and a kid does not see you making the erev, you're going to forget the erev totally. I have a sheet of mavois. Obviously, if I'm partners in the shituf, I'm partners in the chutzner. I use bread, which is the food of choice. So why, like Reb Meir, can I not use bread in the shituf to allow me in the chutzner? Kids will know, and they don't know any lumdis. They don't know there's a sheet over here. They're going to say, you don't have to make an erev. Divrei resh. They'll say that our father's going to go ahead and make an erev. Divrei Meir. So now we went Reb Meir, guys. Says Reb Meir, two churmas. One, you cannot go ahead and make a shituf to use for a chutzner. Not only that, you can't even use bread. That's the second chumrah. And that was the chiddush why Rav had to tell me that Allah is like Rav Lezer ben Tudoi. The chachamim ma'imim oy ma'arvin. You know what? You could even make an Erev Chatzeres, or you make a shituf. It works. Now, pligi barav nechome v'rabar Yitzchak Chad Amar v'pas the kuli amalei pligi de b'chad sagi. In this first lashon, even Reb Meir would hold pas would work. You know, as I use pas as a means of my shituf mavois, it would help for what? For the Erev. Ki pligi b'yayin. But if I use yayin, so there, Reb Meir says you can't use yayin. If you make a yayin, I use yayin for shitu mavois. It doesn't help for what? For my erev. And the Chacham say it does. If you use wine, you're going to need a shituf and you're going to need an erev chatzeres. Wine would not work if you use it. Everyone knows that. Ki pligi bepas. The machloikas kuf is bepas, and that's the way we learned the first pshat. The machloikas is by pas. The May would say you can't even use pas. It says you either make an erev or you make a shituf, either one. My love, you can use either or, and not like you just said you can't use yayin. So if you use a chutzner with pas, then you can go ahead and both places in the chutzner and the shituf would work. Or you mishtafim b'mavi b'pas, or you mishtafim b'mavi b'pas. But yayin's never going to work. Umutarin kan v'kan. Rav Yehuda Rav halacha Reb Meir. That means you'll teach it publicly to the rabbim. Rav Huna Amar mini Reb Meir. That means you would tell a person privately. Rav Yochanan Amar noigo am Reb Meir. That means you don't say anything, but if you see him doing, you're not going to go ahead and stop him from doing it. So that was our sugya. Okay, guys, good. Okay. I got 5 guys. They're in a tracklin. They're under one roof, and they're open to a chutzner, and there are other people in the chutzner. The question is, are these 5 guys one group? Do we say there's like an Eruv among them, or do we say they're 5 separate guys? That's machlokes Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. Chamisha chabura sheshavu b'traklin. Traklin is a room, and we're going to see what kind of barriers, mechitzas they have between them. Chamisha chabura shifta b'traklin. They're all taking residence in a traklin. Echad. Beis Shammai yomrim iriv l'chol chabura v'chabura. You have to take bread from each one. Each one of these 5 chaburas, or 6 chaburas, whatever it is, you'd have to take from each one to mishtativ in the Eruv. We don't consider them one entity that you can take one bread. You have to collect 5. In this case, the number is 5. Beis Hillel no, Eruv echad l'kulam. Says Beis Hillel, one for all and all for one, right? That's it. Umayda Beis Hillel's mayda bisman shemiksasan shvuyim bechadarim oy ba'aliyos. If part of them are living in separate rooms or attics, you would need an Eruv for each chabura. So we have machlokes Beis Hillel Beis Shammai, something in a traklin. We don't know as of yet what kind of barriers are between them, because clearly if they're in one room, they're one chabura. It has to be, there's some type of separation in this traklin, or else Beis Shammai would not hold 5. So we have to ascertain that, and Be'ezer Hashem, we're going to do that right now. Okay. I'm going to read through the Gemara. You're not going to know what's flying. I'm then going to show you a chart, and it's going to be, everything's going to be Toif Tamadas, okay? Good. Amar Rav Nachman. Machlokes b'masipas. Machlokes Beis Shammai Beis Hillel is by small inferior walls. They're not 10 tefachim high, and they're not made of good material. There in Machlokes where Beis Shammai says they're 5, and Beis Hillel says there's 1. Avol b'mechitza asara. But if you have a halakhic wall of 10 tefachim, there we are called Eruv. Even Beis Hillel will be Moida. Ikadiyami, Rav Nachman, after Mesiv Machlokes. They argue by Asara, and they even argue by Mesifas. And Rav Chia bar Rav Shimon bar Rabbi Chia Machlokes and Mechitzas Hamagias the Tikra. Machlokes is Mechitzas that reach the ceiling. Of Mechitzas Shem Hagias the Tikra, they don't reach the ceiling. There we are called Eruv. Echel Kula. Chadam Machlokes Mechitzas Shem Hagias the Tikra. Of Mechitzas Hagias the Tikra, there we are called speaking Eruv Chabura. I discovered at this point in time, seeing all those words, that we need something a little more, and here's the something a little more. We're good? We could see?
Yeah, we got it.
Okay, got it. Now, it's cut off over here. I can't make it bigger, but at the top, guys, maybe you see it, maybe I don't. The top says mechitzos that reach the ceiling, mechitzos of 10, and mesipas are inferior walls, okay? We have 4 Lashonis we have, guys. We had Rav Nachman in the Lishna Kama, we had Rav Nachman in Ikad the Amri, we had Rav Chia, Rav Shimon, but we didn't know who said what, okay? So here's the first shita. Look at the Gemara, and then we're going to look at the screen. Rav Nachman, machlokes b'mesipas. Look at the screen now. 3rd column. Here's the machlokes between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. Avul mechitza asara divrei kol erev. Everyone would say no machlokes at all. You have to go ahead and use 5. Guys, got it? It didn't that discuss magias the tikra at all. It just said asara, right? So I ascertain if there's no machlokes here, everyone would agree. I would say by the ones that reach the ceiling, there's no machlokes here either. Guys, you with me so far? Yes, I don't see anybody. I only see Yehuda. Everyone with me? Good.
Yes.
Now.
Yes,
next.
yes.
Now go next, guys. Next line, the Gemara. Next line. Ikadi Amri, Rav Nachman, Afim Mesipas. What does Afim Mesipas mean? Meaning, not here they said there's no machlokes. Af meaning there is machlokes even by Mesipas. This machlokes is by Asara, and there's even a machlokes by inferior walls. So in the first lashon, they just told us inferior walls, and we went this way. Here we said even here, so there's a machlokes here also. So that's the difference between these 2 lashonos. Over here, there's no machlokes by 10. Here, Beis Hillel would still argue. If it's 10, you'd still argue and say it's one chabura. Guys, got it? You see it?
Yes.
Okay. If anyone has a problem, please come. Okay, I can't see you. So if anyone has a problem, please interject. Okay. Third, continuing the Gemara now. Now, pligi bar of Chia of Rav Shimon back in the Gemara Rabbi. Chanama machloikis mechitzas hamagias l'tikra. Okay. Third column, guys. Column number 1. General Chow's chicken and egg rolls, right? There you go. Rav Chia, it says the name of Shimon. Column 1. Machloikis is over here. Aval mechitza shema gives the tikra, number 10. Deviakol erev echa the kulan, and obviously, if this is 1, everyone would agree 1 by 10. Certainly, everyone would agree by 1 by lousy walls, by inferior walls. That's this shita, and the final shita back in the Gemara Charama machloikas mechitza sheema gives the tikra. Machloikas is what? When they don't reach, right? Machlokas is she'ema gives the tikra. That's this middle column. That's the machlokas. Avol magias the tikra diria called strichim erev l'chol chabura v'chabura. Got it, guys? So here it is. Now here's everyone would agree. Even Beis Hillel would agree over there. Guys, are we good? Now we're set up. You need this chart. I'm going to put the chart. I'm going to go through the Gemara, and what the Gemara is going to do now is mention a brisa and create problems. But I'm not going to see you. So if anyone does not understand what's going on, you have to talk up. You will have the capacity to mute yourself. But again, I'm going to put the chart up. I'm going to go through the Gemara. When I have the chart, I only see one person. And that person has to be Kenny Miller. Okay, Amid Beis, guys. Now, Meisive, we're going to ask on three of these opinions. Meisive, or 2 of them at least. Amr Rav Yehuda Hasabar. Now this is a Tana, guys. Anyone on this chart is an Amoira. Rav Nachman, Rav Chia, and Rav Shimon Rabbi. These were all what? Amoraim. Rav Chia was mamish bordered the Tanoim and Amoraim. So Amr Rav Yehuda Hasabar said Rav Yehuda. Sabar means the thinker. He was Rashi says a very sharp guy. Lo nechalku beishami v'silel al mechitzos hamagias l'tikra. There's no argument between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel on walls that hit the ceiling. So let's go take that line and put it in the Mishnah and put it in our chart. Meaning, if it reaches the ceiling, if they reaches the ceiling, Beis Hillel agrees. Like nechalku Beis Shammai Beis Hillel al machitzos hamagias l'tikra. If the machitzos hit the ceiling, they agree. Now, it works for here. It works for here. No machlokes, they agree, correct? This column is the one that's good. Here you have an upshlag. Here, Rav Chia, either Rav Chia or Rav Shimon, we know who held what? Machlokes. Here we have a Tana saying they agree. Loy nechleku. This is a tiyufta to the shita. This statement of Rav Yehuda Saba, guys, you see where my pointer is? That's the upshlag on this opinion. Because this opinion says it's still a machlokes if they reach the ceiling. And here we're saying, no, there's no machlokes. So this Amoroic statement is a tiyufta to this line. Guys, good? Continues the Gemara. Aman nechlaku, where's the machlokes? Al machitza she'ei magias the tikra. If they don't reach the ceiling. Shebei Shammai oimrim erev l'chol chabur v'chabura, Beis Hillel oimrim erev el chol echad v'yachad. Okay. So now, that's the second column. The second column, that's where machlokes is. So over here, basically, this fellow, the number 4, is coming out according to Yehuda Saba. He said there's no machlokes where it touches the ceiling. They all agree it's a separate chabura, and the machlokes is over here. Good? So this will be problematic with this. Take a look. This will be problematic with this. This is upslug from here already. Number 3 is out of the ballpark. It's out of the ballpark here, it's out of the ballpark here, it's out of the ballpark here. But now, this goes ahead. See, this only didn't go over here, but it went with these 2. This goes here. That works. It doesn't go here. Correct? It doesn't go here. Says the Gemara. Lemandi oma mechitzas hamagias l'tikra machlokes tiyufta. Like the Mandiyama, this opinion over here, he's upshlug. Right, that's over here. Lamandiyam machitza she'im agis the ticker machloikis siyata. The machloikis over here, it's a proof to number 4. Lahach lishna dam Rav Nachman machloikis b'mesipas. That means this one. Machloikis b'mesipas. Tiyufta. It's a tiyufta. Guys, right? He says there's a machloikis over here, but there's no machloikis over here. No machloikis. Again, this is the same shita as Rabbi Yehuda. The first opinion was they only argue here. By 10, they would agree. Rabbi Yehuda just said no. By 10, since it doesn't reach the ceiling, they still would argue. So here, this is a tiyufta to here. This tiyufta to here. So this was a tiyufta to this. No machlokas. This machlokas is tiyufta to this. No machlokas. Now over here, he said after mesipas, right? Good. So not necessarily as a tiyufta, because he said since he said after mesipas, he could agree over here, and then it would be this would stem with this, and this would stem with this. So Ken Zayin, this shita of Reb Nachman would agree with Reb Yehuda Saba. Let's finish up. Lahachlish number of Nachman after mesipas machloikis lemetav tiyufta. After mesipas over here, let's say it's tiyufta. Amlach of Nachman pligim mechitza. They argue by mechitza. Huatim mesipas, meaning they argue here. Huatim over there, and then what? It's not then a machloikis. Tell me a bigger chiddush, fellas. If they argue here, if this is considered a machlokes, then tell me then certainly they're going to argue over here. If they argue with no wall, certainly they're going to argue with more of a wall. Why do you tell me machlokes by mechitza? Only right? It's to tell me the koyach beis hillel. Why do they argue with mechitza? They're telling me Beis Hillel holds, even though it's a full-fledged mechitza, guys, it's still you only need one erev. And so Fred, let's learn over here and tell me the koyach Beis Shammai that even though it's a lousy wall, you need 5. Says the Gemara, "V'liflugim mesipas l'diach koyach Beis Shammai." Says my koyach that Torah adif. The koyach of Torah is greater. So the koyach to say that Beis Hillel's matter is greater than the koyach to say Beis Shammai is us. How was that? It was very geschmack. No, you saw it in front of you, right? It was great. Baruch Hashem.
You have to ask Steve if you can make the boxes disappear on Zoom. That would be the only thing better.
Saint fans have limitations. Amar Rav Nachman Amar Rav. Halacha Kereb Yehuda. The halacha is like Reb Yehuda. Hasaba. No, it's like that 4th shita, guys. The halacha is like the 4th shita. Just to refresh our memories. There's no where there's a machlokes that 10. There's machlokes. Even a full-fledged word is a machlokes. The machlokes that Beis Shammai Beis Hillel hole is where it reaches the ceiling. Where it reaches the ceiling, there's no machlokes. Amar Rav Nachman Yitzchak Masnisa Nami Deka. Our Mishnah is also meduyik. Diktani. Why do we learn our Mishnah? Umoidim Beis Shammai Beis Hillel's moidim Beis Shammai bizman shemiksasan shruyim b'chadarim. When part of them are living in rooms, ubi aliyos and in attics, shetzrichim erev, that they need an erev l'chol chabur b'chabura. Now, my chadarim, my aliyos, what are we talking about? Ilem chadarim mamish, the mamish rooms, aliyos mamish, the mamish separate attics. Pshita, of course you need a set. You live in an apartment building, you got separate apartments. Of course you need an erev from each and every one. So if you have separate rooms, if you have separate aliyos, of course you need separate. Elolav. It must be ke'ein chadorim. It must be they're like chadorim, ein aliyos, and they're like aliyos. Umaynenu mechitzos hamagias l'tikra. They're walls that they have partitions, but the partitions reach to the ceiling. So therefore, it's like if you ever go to a cheap hotel or something, whatever, weiter. Shmamina l'chayravat, you have a very good ride. Guys, good. Sugis should be geschmack as anything. Very good. Tana. The Medama Mamur. Now, we're going to have a different shita. To the Machlokes Beis Shammai Beis Hillel. This is, fellas, any time you see the words Medama Mamurim, you have to look at Rashi. I'm telling you, or else you don't know where you're going. Says Rashi, the Medama Mamurim, go up to the left, about 5 lines down. Medama Mamurim, the Asre Beis Shammai, Kishem Malichim Erev Be'echad Misha B'nei Chotzer. When does Beis Shammai say that you need 5? Is when, back in the Gemara, when the 5 guys in this trackland are taken to another place, then you need each one to go ahead and combine. But if the Eruv would come to them, everyone would hold Eruv Echad L'Kulan. Everyone would hold, even Beis Shammai would hold, fellas, that one Eruv for all. Now, we just went through a whole sugi with mechitzas, correct? So, l'chayra, if the mechitzas separate them, they separate them. And if they don't, they don't. So what are you talking about over here? All of a sudden, you're bringing some new Torah about sending, giving. What's going on over here? Says Rashi, Avalim Hayu, look at Rashi. Avalim Hayu Shabnei HaChatzer Mevi'in Pita L'Traklin. If the other people in the Chatzar are bringing their food to the 5 guys in this trackland, Divrei Akol, everyone would say that they only won. When this Tana holds, it makes a chilik between import and export, exporting the Erev versus importing the Erev. Guys, Svirale, the Tamayo, the Beis Shammai, the Beis Hillel, Lav bin Mechitza Pligi. Nothing to do with the whole daf. Nothing to do whatsoever with Erev. A total different shot. Elafilu leBeis Shammai nami traklin mechabrin. The traklin does put them together. The ain't sarach Erev beinayu, and you don't need an Erev between them. V'havale kichamesha shegavu es Eruvin. It's like 5 people who collected their Eruvin. V'svirlu the chamisha she'irvu es chatzerin uboyin la'arvim chatz acheres. So he holds like this. If you have 5 people, they collect an Erev. If you're sending it out, you have to send out all 5. If you're taking in, you accept 1. This Shita says that we view these 5 guys as if they made an Erev. In other words, it's not pshat that they're considered one because they're physically in one spot. We're going to view them as 5 guys who have already made an Erev. If you made an Erev, then they bring the Erev to you, it's fine. 1 is enough. Conversely, there's an opinion, if you make an Erev and you send it out, even in a regular Erev Chatzeris, you're going to have to collect from each and every one for the export. That's what Beis Shammai holds. And that's the machlokes Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. So now, very gishmak. Let's go back into the Gemara. When does Beis Shammai say that 5 you have to collect from each 5? Is because they're considered like 5 guys who made who collected an Erev, and you're sending it out. You need 5 from each 5 guys. If the Erev comes to them, we'll view them as all having made an Erev already. And Divrei Akol Erev Echad L'Kulan. Divrei Akol, even Beis Shammai would hold 1 does the job. Kaman Azlah Detanya, Chamisha Shegavu Es Eruvin. 5 people who collect their Erevs, Kishmelichim Es Eruvin L'Makam Acher. When they export it, Erev Echad L'Kulan, 1 does the job. That would be according to Beis Hillel, because Beis Shammai would said you need 5. Kiman Ke Beis Hillel. The Ikad Yarmi, the Medavar Mamurim. When do you say that? What? That 1's enough? Is Kishoy Erev Bo Etzlan. Avalum Hoyim Melichin Es Eruvin L'Makam Acher. Divrei Akol Tzrichem Erev L'Chol Chabura L'Chabura. Everyone would say when you send it out, you need what? For each and every one. In other words, again, if it comes in, when the Erev comes into them, that's when Beis Shammai would say you need 5. Everyone hold, 5. In other words, even Beis Hillel would say you need 5. When's the machlokes Beis Shammai Beis Hillel? When it imports. Export, everyone holds you need 5. Even Beis Hillel holds you need 5 if you're exporting from this trackland. Now, when you export, you only need 1. Guys, according to the second Lashon, even Beis Shammai, Beis Hillel held if you export, you need 5. Now we have a brisa that says if you export, you need 1. It's not like Beis Shammai who says 5. It's not like Beis Hillel who says 5. I wish you all a very good evening.
Good,
That's
thank
it.
you. Chart was very good.
Sky.
Yeah.
Wow.